Okay, so let's take a look at some of the advanced controls. And we'll start by taking our geometry, and we're even going to include our little rotate control here, and we're going to create deformers lattice. When you make a lattice, you're going to get a lattice and a base for the lattice. They're basically the same shape, and it's the difference of the two that determines the deformation. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab both the lattice and the base, and since I determined initially in the planning that the radius or the diameter of the sphere is 1, we're also going to make the scale of the lattice and the base 1. And since we scale both the lattice and the base together, no deformation happens. I'm also going to take the t divisions of the lattice and I'm going to turn that down to 2. And what that's going to leave us with is basically just a cube of a lattice. Now the problem with this, you'll see, is if I start to move the lattice around without the base, the results aren't really what we're looking for. So I'm going to go into the attribute editor, and under the FFD node we're going to go to the outside lattice attribute, and we're going to change that from inside to all. And what that is going to tell the rig is that not only what's inside the cube is going to be affected by the lattice, but everything outside of the cube is going to be affected as well. So now you'll see if we move it along, everything comes along for the ride, and that's really what we want. So the next step here is to grab the lattice points, and we're going to start by selecting the top set of lattice points, and we're going to create deformers, and we're going to create a cluster. And then we're going to do the same exact thing for the bottom set of points of the lattice. And we'll duplicate that by pressing G, which is the repeat last command key. And now what you'll see is we have 2 ways of pulling and pushing this ball around. Now, the problem with this is that although we're stretching the ball now, we're losing volume, or we're gaining volume. Actually, if we squash it down now, we're losing volume. The goal is to preserve volume. So what we'd like to do is that when we squash it down, we'd want the width to spread out, and when we stretch it out, we'd want the width to compress inwards. So to do that, first we're going to pop into a side view, and then we'll go into our create measuring tools distance tool, and we're going to snap down 2 locators on the poles of the sphere, which creates us 2 locators and a distance dimension node with a value of 1, which is the correct diameter of the sphere. So now I'm just going to take those clusters, I'm going to parent them under their respective locators, and then under the hidden node I'm going to pop out our top control and bottom control. I'm going to delete the hidden node, I don't need it anymore, and I'm going to do the same thing with the top control. I'm going to snap that to the top pole, take the bottom control, snap that to the bottom pole, and I want to reset the values. So what I'll do is I'll grab both those guys, I'll go to modify, and I will freeze their transformations. And then I will parent the locators under each of the controls and hide them, because we don't need to see them anymore. They'll only get in the way now. Parent and hide. If I pop back into perspective view, oops, we'll see now we have controls as well as distance that's always being calculated. So now we can use that distance to squash and stretch the ball correctly.